The red flag that cost me everything wasn't cheating. It wasn't lying. It wasn't even the fact that he kept disappearing. The truth is, if he had cheated, I probably would have left sooner. Instead, he gave me something much more dangerous: hope. And for almost 2 years, that hope kept me trapped in a relationship that was slowly destroying me. When I met him, I wasn't looking for love. At least, that's what I told myself. We met through mutual friends at a small gathering. He wasn't the loudest person in the room. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. But there was something about him that made me feel comfortable. The conversations felt effortless. The attention felt genuine. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. The first few months felt almost perfect. That's why I missed the first warning sign. One evening, we had plans to meet for dinner. I spent nearly an hour getting ready. I was excited. Maybe more excited than I wanted to admit. Then, 20 minutes before we were supposed to meet, my phone lit up. Something came up. Can we do another day? I remember staring at the message, disappointed, but not suspicious, because he apologized. And that's the thing about red flags. They rarely arrive looking like red flags. A week later, it happened again. Then again. Then again. Every time there was a reason, every time there was an explanation, and every time I chose to believe it. Because when you care about someone, your mind becomes very creative. You start turning excuses into explanations. You start turning patterns into accidents. You start defending behavior that you would never accept from anyone else. As the months passed, something changed. I started feeling anxious. Not because of what he did, but because of what he didn't do. He wouldn't call when he said he would. He wouldn't show up the way he promised he would. And somehow, I always found myself waiting. Waiting for a text, waiting for a call, waiting for consistency, waiting for a version of him that never seemed to arrive. The strange thing was that every time I was ready to walk away, he would pull me back in. A sweet message, a thoughtful compliment, a perfect date. Just enough to make me believe things were finally changing. But they never did. And that's when I learned one of the most dangerous truths about relationships. People don't get attached to certainty. They get attached to unpredictability. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that makes gambling addictive. You never know when the reward is coming. So you keep playing. You keep hoping. You keep investing. Even when you're losing. Looking back, the biggest red flag wasn't his behavior. It was my reaction to it. The red flag wasn't that he disappointed me. The red flag was that every time he disappointed me, I lowered my standards to keep him. Every broken promise became understandable. Every excuse became reasonable. Every warning sign became something I convinced myself would eventually change. I wasn't in love with who he was. I was in love with who I hoped he would become. And hope can be a dangerous thing when it's attached to the wrong person. The day everything finally changed wasn't dramatic. There was no big argument, no betrayal, no shocking discovery. It was actually very quiet. I was sitting alone one evening, staring at my phone, waiting again. And suddenly, a thought crossed my mind. If someone truly values you, why should you constantly have to wonder where you stand? That question changed everything, because I realized something. Love shouldn't feel like confusion. Respect shouldn't feel like anxiety. And commitment shouldn't feel like guessing. For so long, I had been chasing potential, ignoring reality, falling in love with promises instead of patterns. And the cost wasn't just the relationship. The cost was my peace, my confidence, my self-respect. The worst part wasn't losing him. The worst part was losing myself while trying to keep him. If there's one lesson I hope you take from this story, it's this. Pay attention to patterns, not promises. Anyone can say the right words. Anyone can make excuses. Anyone can tell you what you want to hear, but patterns reveal the truth. And when someone's actions repeatedly leave you feeling confused, anxious, or unimportant, believe what those actions are telling you. Because the longer you ignore a red flag, the more expensive it becomes. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from the person you hoped they would become and accept who they actually are. And when I finally did that, I stopped losing myself. That's when I started finding myself again. If this story resonated with you, subscribe for more stories and psychology insights. Thank you for watching.